Released on March 24th, 2016 to the PC through Steam Early Access, it's The Culling, developed by Zavient. I think that's how it's pronounced. This will be part 1 in a 3-part review series, where I will revisit the game and review it in its beta and final releases, as well as this review for the alpha release. In The Culling, you play as a contestant on a reality television show with 15 other players. The goal of the show is to kill the other opponent and be the last one alive at the end of the 25-minute show. You can dispose of the enemies through a variety of ways. You can stab them, you can shoot them, you can blow them up, you can poison them, you can trap them, you can even just wait them out. As the game starts to come to a close, the arena will fill with poison gas, pushing the contestants to the middle of the map. And all this sounds fine and dandy, but is it any good? But quickly, before we go into the good, full disclosure, I received this game for free from the developer for this review. Now with that out of the way, let's get to the good. The Culling really differentiates itself from these other survival games by being fast-paced. Don't get me wrong, there's sneaking and stealth and slow plays, but it's all confined to that 25-minute period. The Culling pares down the rules of these other multiplayer survival games. You don't have those situations where you're nervously asking if a player is friendly or not. You know that everyone is your enemy, and it makes things simple and quick. Just kill them. The game also gives you an incredible feeling of paranoia. This is aided greatly by the sound design. There's no music, and you just hear ambient sounds of the arena. On top of that, there's these health and weapon recycle stations that are incredibly loud, but also incredibly useful. If you use them, you will alert the player to your nearby location. The game also features a currency system called F.U.N.C. F.U.N.C is used for crafting, healing, opening crates, and basically every interaction besides killing and opening doors. I really liked this system and found it fun because it added a nice layer of money management that really sort of influenced the match. If I had a lot of F.U.N.C, I might call in an airdrop. If I didn't, I might just craft an item on the ground, and that really decided my plan for the rest of the match. Adding to that, there's even more things to manage. Your health and stamina are obviously important to keep an eye on, stamina especially, as it lets you run away from opponents or charge strikes. The Culling forces you to think about your inventory in the same way a survival horror game does. You have at max 5 slots to carry items, whether that be a weapon, a healing item, or a buff. There's been many times where I had a full inventory, and I really had to think about what item I'm going to drop or what combination of items would give me the best advantage to win. As far as the actual combat in the game goes, it's pretty enjoyable. It's a basic rock, paper, scissors type of combat. You can shove an opponent, attack an opponent, or block an opponent's attacks. Shoving beats blocking, blocking beats attacks, and attacks beat shoving. It's simple, but it's effective. And finally, the last thing I really enjoyed about The Culling was its humorous tone. There's an announcer who chimes in here or there when someone gets killed. There's also random game show loot drops. The leaderboard for the match is projected in the sky. And my personal favorite are the humorous names for some of the items like Iron Foreskin. And while Iron Foreskin is pretty great, we gotta take a look at the bad. My biggest problem with The Culling is that there's a lot of bugs and glitches. Some of the most frustrating glitches for me have been ones where I've fallen through the map, and one in particular that keeps rearing its ugly head where I'll open a locker to grab an item out of it, and there's no item in there. Nothing has spawned inside of that locker. But if I come back later, it spawns after the locker's already been opened, so it takes a minute to spawn. So you have to do a double pass on everything you've opened, which is quite frustrating, especially in a game like this. Latency was also a bit of an issue. I've gotten into fights where I should have hit the person, but my attacks did not register, or they registered later than they should have because of the latency. Playing into that is the long matchmaking. Now this game is short and fast-paced, and that's why I like it. Problem is, it takes 2 minutes on average to get into a match. You just sit there in the title menu with the matchmaking counter going for usually about 2 minutes. Another problem is the obviously unfinished textured work. There's a specific bridge that is completely flat textured, just one color, flat. Nothing. There's also some air vents and boxes on top of a roof that just either have no texture or the default texture. I mean, I know the game's early access and it's currently functioning right now, but those are some things that I'd like to see cleared up ASAP. Another big problem I have with the game is the inability to create a match. You can join matches, but you have to follow the rigid set of rules. You can't create a match with just friends or change any of the match rules to have more contestants, or be on a different map, or have a longer match timer, or anything like that. You just have to play either the single player mode or the teams mode with a friend or a random person. That's all you can do. The Culling is a very addicting game. It takes what makes other survival games fun and pares it down and keeps the rules basic to keep things short and sweet, while throwing in a couple twists of its own. Right now, it's still really rough around the edges and needs a lot of work. At the asking price of $15, I don't think it's too bad of a deal. But now it's time for my rating.